Hey.
Hey, we're live. Check it.
Yay!
Yay, it worked. Yay, happy days. I don't have like an actual introduction for being like, this is STEM in a nutshell. That's something maybe I'll do when I put it on Spotify, I guess. If people are still using Spotify. Because there's
Uh,
kind of a boycott right now.
oh.
Whatever.
I can't keep up with those. I just,
The world is in chaos. And I have my
whatever.
head down a rabbit hole of like, I'm just gonna look at a bunch of science articles and pretend nothing else is happening.
Yeah, bury your nose in
I mean, might as well.
science. That's always
Makes me happy.
relaxing.
Yeah, right.
I guess it depends on what subject
I
you're
mean, I'm not doing
researching.
like atomic physics anymore, so it's a little more relaxing than that. That was
I'm
mildly
totally
stressful.
not. Yeah, yeah. I've totally failed. Like I've never taken a physics class, and I think I swear I had to have been drinking. This was like years ago. And we were having the conversation where like I don't know how this came up, but like if a truck is moving and the person is like jumping in the bed of the truck, does the truck leave them? And I was like, it totally does, because like in my head, or like I don't know.
Well, because when you jump,
No.
you'd be moving at
Yeah.
the same as the
Yeah.
truck, so you'd both move forward. But I mean, if you were like hang time in air for more than just like a brief moment and then come back
Yeah.
down, if you're just hanging there for a while, like the highest jump ever, you would fall backwards for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So physics like was not my thing, but also physics while drinking, and I'm
Yeah. Oh, I've had that moment. I like once at some party, and one of my best friends, I was in geology with her husband. And so
I
we
love
were
geology.
drinking and we were apparently talking geology and science, quote unquote, whatever drunk people consider to be science at that point in the night, or lack thereof, really.
These days it's I don't think it takes much.
No, no, Yeah, I thought like when had the idea of starting the podcast, I thought like I wanted to start it as kind of like a bring someone new on every time just to talk about like what they do in their field and try to break things down like the jargon or whatever, break it down so like the layman can understand it. And then I thought it'd be really fun on like do that like every other week just so it's not too much and I don't know. Not that I have anything going on in my life really, but just like every other week, just so I can try to get the feel of it, not feel too pressured. But then on the off weeks, I thought it'd be really fun to just have like a science friend and drinking wine over Zoom and bullshitting about science or like all the not science out there that people think is science. you know, what tends to get traction more than actual science.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be really funny. Like, so it may like when I was in physics, we had a physics lounge. It wasn't like a great lounge. It was really shitty chairs that were falling apart and like some off center tables, but you know, physics. Uh, and we would always like we would just hang out there and just bullshit about everything. Like I loved being in the physics department just because of that. Just having my other classmates there and like it'd be anything from like I don't know science and religion to like do steel beams melt in the trade center like that, just anything and everything that might remotely be science, and it was really fun. But when I switched to mathematics, oh my god, they were the most boring group of people in my life. Oh my god.
It's not surprising.
I mean, and there was one kid, and like I wanted to throat punch this kid, because me coming from
Mm.
I was still like super obsessed with astrophysics at the time, and this kid was like, what has NASA ever done for us? And it's like, oh boy, I got some lectures for you right now. We want to have this talk. He's like, no, really, they just go to space and they look at moon rocks. I'm like, no, that's not it at all. We haven't been to the moon in forever. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, I had to have like a full on debrief with this kid about why NASA matters.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been so long since they were so prevalent in the news that,
When I think,
and in our
like,
lives, people
yeah,
forget about them.
one
I
without
mean, yeah, there
them
have
going
been big
up,
things.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
people
and
think that
there,
it's just them going up in space, but like they also equally run like a huge center for like climate change. Like it's not just like
and they have
below
all those
us.
satellites and things like flying in space
Yeah, we
still.
still
I
got people
mean,
on the space station and everything. Like
yeah,
it's not just we're gonna go to the moon or whatever. Although I think they're trying to go to the moon again for some reason. I don't know why.
I have heard that, I think.
I feel yeah, I like someone had told me that and then I read something but I don't remember why and I don't really know why. I didn't
Yeah.
know there was anything else that we could get from the moon that we didn't already have. That might be.
These days, if you're not a celebrity going in space, the media is not going to cover it. So,
No kidding. Oh my god. Just the
celebrity culture.
yeah, exactly. We've got those three yahoos. Well, okay, so it's two yahoos taking trips up to the upper atmosphere, I guess. I don't even. It's not exactly space either. Like
I'm
Bezos and
not really keeping track. If it's on late night, like
yeah.
the late night shows, that's generally how I'll like get the overview of the news. And then if there's something that I hear that I want to dig into, I
Oh,
will.
it's fair.
But
I tuned out a little bit because there's like Bezos with his Blue Origin, and then whatever the hell that guy's name is with Virgin Galactic. But like, they don't really go out into space. They just go like super high up in the atmosphere that it's
like
kind of
skimming
like
the
space.
surface.
Yeah, they're just way up there that they can see the stars and everything, and then see everything on Earth. But it's very I mean, I love space and going to space would be super cool, but I also realize that they're just charting these like extravagant airplanes to take really rich people up for a few minutes and then come back down.
How much fuel does that use? I'm
A
not
lot.
interested in going to space, by the way. Like,
I don't want to. Like
I'm
the thought of it
very
scares me.
happy with my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't even really like getting in airplanes.
I've never been in an airplane.
You've never been?
Nope. I have never
Okay.
even been in an airport.
What?
Yeah,
Now
I
that is an
know.
experience you must have.
I
But
know.
after all this COVID mess,
I don't know. I just like the thought of just being like in a tin can and it freaks me out. I don't know. You can't escape it. Like I can bail
yeah,
out of my car, but I can't bail out of an airplane, at least not on a
yeah,
commercial flight.
it requires Xanax.
I would have to. Oh, like yeah, I
Yeah,
know. And then just thinking about space
I
freaks me out even more. Like, what do? You yeet myself out of the spaceship and die instantly in 0 Kelvin out there.
who wants to, yeah, I don't know. Like in some ways I understand the obsession, and other ways I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I mean, if we had something that was, like Star Trek, I'd be down for it. That's that I could do. I'm not like this claustrophobic little tin can that is what we have now. I'm not doing
I
that.
still couldn't do it, even if it was Star Trek. Now, if they could like beam you up from Earth, like straight up into the
Yeah.
spaceship where there was like no time or feeling in between, then I'm down. But
Yeah, then you just like you hop across with the warp drive
experiencing
and
it,
everything, so you don't have to like really sit there. You can just bippity boppity boop yourself across the universe. It'd be
that
great.
would be fun.
And
Yeah,
then
that's the only way I
back
would
down.
do it.
Yeah.
No motion sickness.
No, that's something I wonder too. Like do you get motion sick?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I used to when I was like really bad when I was little, and then it went away for a while, and
Huh.
then now like yeah,
Yeah, that's
bad.
me too. I've heard that well, I was told that motion sickness would be worse in space because of the zero gravity.
Way more. Now just keep adding reasons for
Yeah,
me
I know.
not to go.
Yeah, see, that's why I
No,
made the Star Trek ships, and they have artificial gravity on there, and everything's back down. It's great. I know. I couldn't do it.
I do like though that when you go into space, you get taller
Oh yeah,
by like an inch or something.
yeah,
I'm
that's right.
short, so I think for us vertically challenged people,
Uh huh.
an
I'd still
inch
be
is a
short.
lot. I think I'm shorter than you even, so
What? What? How tall are you?
5'2".
Oh yeah, I'm 5'3". So 1 inch.
So I get 1 inch. So you stay here, I'll go into space, and then
Yeah.
for like a few days at least, I'll be the same height as you.
Yeah. I'll be 5'4", and my license says 5'4", so apparently I lied.
Oh,
Oops. I know. I had it renewed and they're like, you're an inch shorter. And it's like, oh, so we change it? They're like, nah, I don't care. Oh, okay. Well, I'll
that
just.
reminds me, I need to renew mine this year.
Mm,
It expires. Don't let it expire.
I won't because yeah, mine's this year as well. So suck fest. And Washington, apparently other states have like a special type of license that Washington doesn't have. So now everybody in Washington has to upgrade to this type of license that everybody else has.
Oh,
And it costs
I
more.
forget. Yeah, I forget what it's
Stupid.
called, but I don't have one of those yet, and my new one will be one of those.
Yeah.
The ones that like all the airports are gonna require, like if you
Yeah.
want to fly.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Those.
don't have that one yet because I don't.
I don't know what I would do like in between, like if I had to go fly somewhere right now, which please no, but if I had to, I don't have that license, so I don't know
I
what I would
think
do.
the requirements for it has been delayed because of COVID. I don't
Oh,
know,
like
like
everything
when
else.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair.
I
I
don't
mean,
know
that's
when
fine.
exactly, but I know last
Okay.
I heard or paid attention.
Yeah, I don't. I just like send me send me something in the mail. Although it
Ugh.
has my old address, so it wouldn't even come to me. Whoops. Also, whoops.
You're not the only one. I've moved, I don't know how many times since I got my license.
Yeah, I
Five?
moved
Five
like
times?
right after I got my license, and I've been in the same place for years, so there's no excuse for me not to have renewed it and got an actual updated address. Besides, I'm purely lazy and don't want to.
Well, I've been in my same apartment for 5 years and I still haven't done it. I bought two different cars since I've been
Oh,
in this apartment. And every time I go to the DMV and I'm like, oh yeah, it's not, the address is not correct on there. And the DMV here is just like, whatever. I guess in North Carolina, they're a lot more slack about it because they're just like, oh, no worries. Like it's an everyday thing. Like no one's address is the
that's
same. I'm just like,
wow,
okay, okay.
wow. Okay, awesome. Jeez Louise. So
But
I
it
have.
was trouble when I bought a house. I had like
Oh,
extra paperwork
yeah.
for why my address didn't.
Fair.
No big deal.
I like your white streak that you got going on there.
My gray,
Yeah.
my chemo, like after I finished chemo and my hair grew back, I had this little patch.
Really?
And yeah, I had some gray before I went through chemo, but it wasn't so like
Huh.
concentrated. And then I don't know if you can see sometimes, it depends on how my hair is, but it'll go like straight back into however I throw my hair up.
Wow.
But yeah,
So the
I
chemo
don't,
did something to make that pop, or
I, I don't know, like, because I wouldn't say I was extremely stressed when I was going through all of that. I mean,
really?
I was in grad school,
Uh, that's like two very
but
stressful things.
you know, I have this like, there was one of my treatments sitting in the chair, and I had like the stuff like hooked up to me, and they're taking my vitals. And I'm like reading papers, like I have physical papers, I have my laptop and grad student stuff. And they took all my vitals and they're like my pulse was like 70 or like, yeah, like 65 or 70. And my blood pressure was like totally normal. And they're like, okay, are you
Impressive.
sure you're studying, like researching there? And I was like, no, this is
Yeah,
fun.
that's super impressive. Like, damn.
I mean, I was very much like in a zone. So it was like my whole life,
Mhm.
every day was, work, work, work. Yeah, I had chemo like every other week,
Wow.
but yeah, I just did my thing and stayed focused. And it wasn't easy,
No.
but I wanted to graduate because my
Yeah.
master's took longer than most people's. Um,
Um,
Yeah.
I
My
mean, everybody
advisor
has a
was
different path.
tougher.
So, I mean, my
Yeah.
bachelor's took for a decade. I mean, yeah,
I've seen people take even longer.
yeah.
Yeah. I took forever. I was in community college forever because I started out as a fine arts major.
Oh,
And yeah, I dropped out of high school. I got my GED. I went straight to community college. And I started out as a fine arts major and I was just like bored. I mean, it was really easy for me
yeah,
to get A's and to do well. And the teachers always liked my work. I didn't really like see what they saw, and I was always really hard on myself. And at some point, I was just like, I don't want to contribute to the materialism of society. Like, I'm going to restore art
yeah.
instead because I like science and I like chemistry. So I was like, I'm going to switch my degree to science, like in community college. So I did like a straight, like chemistry, like switched everything, took all these classes. I had a wide spread of
Hmm.
interests. So
Oh, I feel it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then I was taking physical geology as a science elective.
Hmm.
And in there, like we learned about soils, like soil formation. And I just got hooked on agriculture. And then I learned about plant breeding. And then boom, that was it for me. The
Awesome.
second I learned about plant breeding, I was, yeah.
So
I'm very ADHD, by the way. So
I was
feel
just
free
trying
to
to think of the
rein me
words.
in.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to think of the word for a second. So then what is your degree exactly? Is it like botany or is that something different?
Oh yeah, it's not botany. So plant breeding and genetics is my what my degrees were in.
Oh, okay.
So I have my associate in science, my bachelor's in plant breeding and genetics with a like concentration in biotechnology, I guess is what they called it.
Cool.
Um, and then my master's was just straight up plant breeding and genetics, where I was studying different types of disease resistance in winter wheat
Oh, okay.
to powdery mildew specifically.
I hate
But
powdery mildew. That
I love
bastard.
plant pathogens, like, except for, well, I really like fungus, like
Okay.
plant fun. Yeah,
Huh.
they just powdery mildew and like rust, stripe rust. I know it's a terrible like disease for wheat, but like seeing it, I just get so excited.
Oh my gosh. So it's like me if I
I,
see something, it's like data, and I'm like, oh, look at that numbers.
you nerd out over it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And
fantastic.
bugs.
Hmm.
I like bugs.
Bugs are great. I mean, I generally enjoy them. There's a few that can just die and never be seen from again.
Mosquitoes,
Yes, I hate them. Oh my god.
but they all serve a purpose.
What purpose do mosquitoes serve?
I thought they were like bat food or something.
Yeah, but bats can also
Somebody,
eat other stuff too.
yeah,
Like,
there's
is it a
something
main food?
someone somewhere like said this is where mosquitoes are vital, this food source. And I was like, oh,
Oh, so
maybe hummingbirds.
we can't.
Hummingbirds eat small insects.
I thought they only had nectar.
I think it depends on the hummingbird.
Oh, I thought they just have a little thumb thing. I watch them when they come to the porch and there's like,
Yeah, I try to plant stuff just for them. And then when they're around, I make little like kissy noises and they'll
oh,
come. Like sometimes they'll come to me and zoom, zoom, zoom.
oh.
They're so cute.
Have you ever seen the video of the praying mantis that captured a hummingbird at the feeder and started to eat it?
Ew, no, I wouldn't watch that.
It was so sad. I think the person ended up like if they watched it catch it and like try to start to get at it and then they separated them. But yeah, it was just I mean just big green praying mantis just whoosh, snatched that thing like it was
I
nothing.
think, is it the invasive praying mantis? Well, invasive to the US that does that?
I don't know. They're
Because I know,
like I only ever see the green and brown ones around, so I just
I
assumed
think
that.
they're all green and brown. So there's like an American one that I know is like native to the mid-Atlantic
Oh,
Um,
I'm gonna
and
Google
then
this.
there's the Chinese one that when you buy like your predators,
Hmm.
that's one that will come
Oh,
and then people release them. But I don't think they necessarily like share the same, like there's some overlap, but I don't
hmm.
think that they necessarily feed in the same places. I don't know,
No. The Chinese
but it's still
mantis
invasive.
is invasive and it's about 5 inches long. Oh yeah, they're I don't know. Yeah, I think those are like the kind of basic looking ones. I don't know, because they can be like at different times. It could be the same species and they like slightly vary in color and things too.
Yeah, I think the only way you can really tell, unless you've got like a really good eye, is to
Uh-huh.
catch them and turn them over and
Yeah, this one kind of has like a modeled, if that's the right word, like coloring to it a little bit. So I don't
I've
think I've
never,
ever seen this one before.
I don't usually get very close to praying mantis when I see them. What
I
is the
love
plural?
them.
Is it manti or is it just
I'd say
mantid?
I'm not actually sure. I say praying mantises. I don't know.
Mantis.
I've never thought about that. I say
I
mantises.
just do my usual setter mantises, manti.
Mantises. And my grandma always had, when I lived with my grandparents, and she had rose bushes everywhere, and praying mantises love rose bushes. So they'd be all over, and I'd just be like carrying around little mantises, because I just thought they were so cute.
I'm
I love
afraid to
them.
carry them.
I won't
When I
touch the
was
big ones,
little,
but the little ones are totally fair game.
oh yeah. When I was little, a friend was playing with a friend and like something was like biting her like down her back of her shirt. Somehow a praying mantis had got under her shirt and was like biting her. So ever since then, I'm like, mm-mm, no praying mantis for me.
Oh, oh my
Yeah.
god. They're
Unless
super
it's
cool
cold.
though. Oh,
If they're out when it's cold, because bugs don't like the cold, they get all
uh-huh.
slow. And I'll move them with my pencil or something.
We don't. We get colder here than you, so I heard. I don't know what happens to our bugs. I do not see bugs past like October. They just don't
Um,
exist. They're gone.
when it warms up, I'll see bees. But like today, yeah, it's been like 68 the last 2 days here and raining.
We have a heat wave right now, and we are at 37. It's a
Wow.
heat wave. hmm It's
No,
so
that's
nice. We're gonna hit 40 next week, and I'm so excited. That's like almost t-shirt weather. It's exciting.
goodness.
Yeah, and that's t-shirt for us in
Goodness.
the north.
It's 68 for me, and I'm wearing tank top. I had my lightweight wool zip up sweater and my jacket.
Oh no, it's like tank tops and shorts here. Maybe some sandals. And people here wear
Yeah.
sandals in the winter because they're weirdos. I don't know. I don't. I like being warm. I can't.
Yeah.
I did
In
read.
some ways, I would like to have more cold, but in other ways, I'm like, we get
I mean,
plenty.
I like it. I love having 4 seasons. It's fantastic, but it's. Okay, I'm gonna go on a climate spiel momentarily. The climate has gotten so extreme and stupid here. Like when I was a kid, it was very like, it was very. It wasn't like incredibly hot summers. They were hot summers. We get hot summers. That's just how Eastern Washington is. But it wasn't last year
Quite as
117
volatile.
degrees. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't 5 months of hell and drought. Like we used to get amazing winter, winter. Oh my god, summer rainstorms. Like in the summer, I just grab my bike, go play in the rain. They were fantastic, warm. I loved it. You past like April, we might get a sprinkle of rain in May, and then we won't get anything till the end of September now. It's just drought and hell, absolute hell, which is why everything's on fire here. You know,
Oh, that's right, Washington. Yeah.
hmm fire. It's awful, but it didn't. Like I swear, even that's 20, 25 years ago that it didn't used to be this bad here at all. I mean, there's still obviously fires, but not you know hundreds of thousands of acres of fires that we have now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And I know people bring up things
bad.
like improper management, but I mean,
The hell are we
that's
gonna
just
do? Go
one. This
rake.
one ingredient.
Well, and they do
One
preventative
ingredient in the
things here.
bowl.
Yeah, they do preventative
Yeah.
things here, like going out and so they trim from the forest floor up on the trees. I think it's like 3 or 5 feet up that they trim. My grandparents used to have them come out and do it at their cabin down in the Blue Mountains in the Cascades. Um, so there is things that they do, but I mean, if you don't, like, our winters have been milder, and so you're not having that snowpack. You don't have the snowpack for the melt off in the spring, which isn't going to give you the water to help you through the summer months, and then you don't have rain on top of that. You're just screwed. Like, we are actually having some pretty good snow this year in the mountains, so I'm hoping, like, last year didn't end up, it wasn't the worst fire season. It was bad, but it wasn't the worst that we had. We did, was that last year? No, it's the year before that we had, because the smoke scale is on like 0 to 500, the particles, and we went
I
off
couldn't
the
live there.
charts. We went off the charts, completely off. It was
No.
unregisterable anymore. Like, that never once happened when I was a kid, ever. I can't ever remember being like, you have to stay inside and keep all the doors and windows sealed shut because there is smoke.
That's crazy.
It's wild. It absolutely
And the
baffles me.
pictures are scary. When
Yeah.
people show those videos of them like driving, like racing to get out, and there's fire on all sides of them, I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
I know.
What? Like,
It's crazy.
do they come in that fast that you just don't have the time?
If it's they can, yeah. If it's so there's this little tiny town. It's northwest up here. Yeah, northwest up here. 2 years ago, when we had really bad fires, it wiped it off the map. It just
Oh
came in
my
before they could even
gosh.
blink. Everybody lost everything. They had nothing. It was like those couple towns that were down in California. The same thing happened. They didn't have time to react to sirens going off or anything. It just swept them before they could even tell people you need to hurry up and get out. They're just kind of saying it's getting closer, it's getting closer, and then it was at their doorstep. What could they do? I mean, entire
That's
towns have been
crazy.
wiped off the face of the earth a few times over the last few years.
Wow. That's so sad.
But like the problem is, we have a big problem that we keep pushing further and further into the mountains. Like here where
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, the house I grew up in, it was all forest around there. Like, and you go past, there's still neighborhoods and stuff, but there's a big forest area. It's all gone. It's all houses now. And people
We'll
wonder
never
why we have
stop.
coyotes and mountain lions and things coming in here. We
Yeah.
have moose that come through here. And
Oh
I mean,
my gosh, you have
coyote.
moose out there?
Yeah, we got moose, and those. I mean, if you have a coyote,
I've seen them in
whatever, it's not a big deal.
Colorado.
Yeah, but if you have a moose in front of your yard, you can't leave your house until that moose is gone, because that moose will fuck you up.
Yeah,
But like
they're
that is, yeah,
scary.
they're big and they can be pretty bullish, but it's
I'm like more afraid of moose than bear. Well, a
oh
black bear.
yeah,
I'll take a black bear over a moose.
yeah, for sure, definitely.
They're so cute.
But I don't. Yeah, I just have a problem with like some of what was that town, Paradise in California, that got
Yeah,
wiped off. They're rebuilding there because what else are they going to be able to do?
yeah,
They don't have anywhere else to go, so they just go back and rebuild in the same spot, which is still going to be in the exact path that a fire can come through again, like it did before, and wipe them off
yeah,
the face of the earth again. And then they just keep moving further and further into the hills. It's as things get drier and expansion happens, which I still don't understand the expansion, but that's a whole nother issue of mine. But what are people going to do? We're purposely putting ourselves in the way of harm like that.
hmm.
It's
So how does like deforestation contribute to the fires, like to the wildfires there?
it's
That's probably a bit more complicated,
yeah.
obviously,
Well, so
because you have
one
like your
problem,
forest structure.
yeah, you have the
So,
forest structure. Like a lot of times there will be, my grandpa was complaining about how they'll cut down the trees and they leave all the limbs and stuff, and it just dries out and adds fuel for fire to come through, and it just sweeps through faster. But when they start pulling, one of the things they start taking all these trees out that destabilizes the structure in the soil, like having the root system there. So then
Hmm.
after that happens, when you have, because eventually the fall will come, we're going to have hard rains in the fall, that will lead to erosion. And then you have problems with landslides coming in afterwards and just destabilizes the soil after that comes in. So it's, as trees burn away, you, or they're logged away, a lot of, um, at least up here, I can't say for everywhere, but I know in Washington, when they start their logging, they have to replant.
Yeah, they do
They
that here
can't
too.
they can't just strip it and have the scars across the hillsides anymore. Which,
But they're always teeny tiny little
yeah,
pines.
they're little
Here, I don't know.
babies.
I'm assuming out there, is it white pine too? Because that's what we have out here in the mid Atlantic. I believe it's white pine,
Mm,
some
it
kind of
depends where
pine.
you're at. We have there's like 4 native pine species up here. And it just depends, like, where in eastern Washington the big pine is ponderosas, and I hate them. They're stupid trees. They're the worst. They have super shallow root systems, so whenever we have our massive windstorms that come through,
They
they
fall.
fall over, which is why I didn't have power for 8.5 days that one year. um, I have a
That would
strong
make me
I had
hate
a
a tree too.
I have a big
That's a
grudge
long
against
time
ponderosa
without
pine.
power.
Oh, and it was in winter, so it was freezing cold, no power. It was awful. My neighbor's pipes burst, which came onto my side of the apartment. It was just a shit show. But yeah, so we have massively ponderosa pines over here, and they're also super prone to pests and disease. It's just a shitty tree. But I don't think that's what they're logging. It's just, I don't think they're logging that here. On the west side, kind of they have ponderosa over there, but not like we do over here, because it's supposed to be a little more on the drought resilient side, which is why it's so heavy in eastern Washington. Um,
Mm,
the pines look a
I don't
lot
really know a lot
nicer.
about trees.
It's something that like I've casually looked into, and then because I have like massive short-term memory loss issues, I forget it again, and then I look it up again, and then forget it again. It's a
That's
perpetual
what
cycle.
Google is for. I
I love
mean, like that's half
Google.
my brain is Google. So
Yeah, why do I have to memorize so much stuff when I have Google? College. Uh,
just Google it.
yeah, no, it's definitely a thing. Like, and where I grew up, so Washington's super cool. Like, I don't think. I mean, when you think of Washington, what type of climate do you think? Like, most people think Seattle type of like
Yeah, I
rain.
mean Seattle comes to mind just because it's so iconic, but
Yeah.
cold. I also, what is it? Is it,
Kind of.
what are those like rolly wheat hills? You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about? I know it's in
no, we just
Washington
call it
State.
hills. Yeah, that's like in central Washington, and it's super boring for a car ride. Like going
Oh,
from
it's gotta be so pretty when
Spokane.
it's covered in wheat. Sorry, so
Well, we have them here too.
crops
Like,
are my thing. Like
yeah.
that's what
Oh,
I,
well, you should
yeah.
come visit me because I'll take you like 5 minutes from where I live, and it's just fields
The
everywhere.
wheat.
Yeah, which they had a
Yay.
massive problem with their wheat harvest this year and other harvests because it was so dry. It just
Mm-hmm.
ruined their crops completely. Unfortunately, like our orchards here had a lot of problems with all their produce too. So,
Oh, I love
um,
Washington cherries.
yeah, and apples. Like cosmic
I
apple is my
haven't had
favorite
many
thing.
apples. Which one's the cosmic apple? Is that
It's
the?
the crossbreed that they just came out with like 2 years ago, or in 2018. They came out with it in 2018. It's a crossbreed
But that's
between.
still like 2 years ago. I mean, when you
Yeah,
consider the
COVID doesn't count.
pandemic.
COVID doesn't count. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really good apple, but for some reason it lasts way longer in the fridge. I don't know why, but it lasts way longer.
Are you supposed to put apples in the fridge?
Oh, I do. Do you not? I
I
put
don't really
everything in the
eat very
fridge.
many of them,
Oh,
but I know tomatoes don't go in the fridge. Apples?
oh, I put
I
tomatoes in the
usually
fridge
leave my
also.
apples out.
I
You're not supposed to put tomatoes in the
I
fridge.
put everything into the fridge except bananas. Well, and no, I put melons in there after I cut them up. Yeah, everything goes in the fridge.
Yeah,
Pears,
I don't really eat
oranges, everything.
melons. Oh, I don't put my oranges in the fridge.
Oh. I do.
Or my grapefruits.
I put grapefruits in there too. Yeah, everything goes in. Everything's refrigerated here.
Mm, wow.
I've never been told
So
otherwise.
different.
That's just all I know. And it's,
If you
yeah.
read the packaging, like if you get a packaged tomato, it should probably say do not refrigerate.
Really?
I've
Oh,
noticed that on the ones here. Yeah, it'll say do not
I never knew
refrigerate.
that. Well, I usually my parents have a really big garden, so I just steal all their tomatoes
Oh,
and
that's
then
really
put it
nice.
in the fridge. I steal all their produce. I get all their cucumbers too. It's fantastic. Have you ever had a Japanese cucumber?
No.
Oh my
What
god,
is
they're
a
like two
Japanese
feet long
cucumber?
and they're light green.
What?
They are the biggest cucumber ever. They're amazing. But they're like um they don't have such a tough skin on them. They're really soft. And they have like a
Oh,
slight bitterness to it. They're
bitter
like
cucumber?
kind of well like zesty. I guess not bitter, zesty. Like slightly zesty.
Zesty.
Yeah, like a
Hmm.
slight lemon to it. Just ever so slightly.
Huh.
Is my
That's
favorite
interesting.
cucumber. Absolutely
I'll
favorite.
have
But
to
it's
look
like
for
2 feet
this
long.
Japanese cucumber.
I've never seen them in store, but my dad grew them last year, and they were just. I mean, I like to take them and pretend a sword fight with them. Yeah, because I'm definitely in my 30s, obviously.
Hey, I mean, gotta entertain yourself somehow, right?
That is the story of the last 2.5 years.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah,
definitely stir crazy.
I'm still stir crazy.
I've been going back into the lab, and
Oh, that's
well, I have
nice.
to go to the growth chambers. We
What's a
have
growth chamber?
projects. It's a like a small room that you grow plants in, and we have NC State has a building called the Phytotron. You can Google that. I think it has its own Wikipedia page.
Cool. Okay.
And it's just like 3 stories of various types of growth chambers.
Huh.
And the ones that we use, like you have to walk into, and soybeans don't grow well in growth chambers or greenhouses in general. Just instead of
Interesting.
growing like, yeah, I'll have to show you pictures.
Are they like a free range plant? They like to just do their
they
thing.
so we call it atoliation, where they just grow taller and taller and taller.
Oh.
They're not getting enough of the right light, so when you grow them like in a field, they stay bushy and compact in the internode length. So from node to node the
Uh
length
huh.
is shorter, but in the
Okay.
greenhouse they're thin and the internode length is longer, so they etiolate. But in a growth chamber it's even worse.
Oh.
And so we take these like 6 foot plus bamboo stakes in the pot, and we try and like train it to grow up.
Mhm.
And they grow up all the way to the ceiling, and then we have to turn them back down
Oh my
and wrap
gosh.
them. Yeah,
Oh
like
my gosh.
it's such a mess. But the work that we're doing now, well, that my boss is, she's a physiologist, so doing physiology things. I switched to a different lab
With
within my
plants?
research unit.
Plant
She's a plant
physiology?
physiology.
Okay. Now
Yeah,
tell me what
like photosynthesis,
like
carbon, the respiration, like
oh,
all
cool.
the things that plants do.
Uh-huh.
So they'll look at like drought stress.
Uh-huh.
And this study is specific to heat stress. So at some point, I think next week, they're going to turn one of the chambers up to like 98 degrees Fahrenheit.
Great band.
And it's going to stay like that for a month. And they're going to like sample, like they do, we'll be sampling from the plants. We'll have to go in there. It's
Oh,
awful.
that's
I've only like
yeah.
participated in one replication before this one, and it's so hot. It's so hot.
So when they change variables like that, are they looking like how the plant grows differently? Do they see how it tastes differently too?
We don't eat them.
Okay.
So like for soybean, the main thing is like the meal, but they'll so we harvest the plants and we'll weigh the biomass of the plant. So like we'll cut it from the soil and we'll separate all the soybean pods from the rest of the plant and to put that in one bag. And then we put the biomass, so the stems, the leaves, into another bag. And we'll weigh those and count, and we'll run the seed under what we call it NIR. It's a near infrared spectroscopy, and it measures the amount of protein
Oh,
in the seed.
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's just another stress measurement. So a lot of things in physiology just stress the plant out in some way. And then you have a control and you just try to compare
Cool.
that way. And they do other
Yeah.
things. So they'll also look at photosynthetic rate and blah, 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 blah.
I mean, closest I got in like third grade, we did experiments with peas in different growing conditions and
Mhm.
different water amounts, different light amounts, if you add something to the soil or not. And that's the closest I've come to anything plant related besides killing
Oh,
houseplants.
but that's houseplants are there. There's a lot to learn from them too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in the winter, it's easy to kill things, especially when we get these cold snaps. Because like it
Yeah.
was super freezing for us the last couple of weeks. Like, oh, so cold. But I guess that's probably like the fact that the humidity was so low in my apartment that it was like in the 30s and I had to
Yeah.
run a humidifier. Like,
Mine is like in the
that's not
high
normal for
30s, low
me.
40s with a humidifier running all day.
No.
Yeah. It's dry here.
Gosh.
So
Well,
dry.
now it's been raining today, so the humidity is like 50%, which is like
Oh.
normal for me in my apartment, like in the spring, summer,
Well, and
fall.
it's warm there too, so it keeps the moisture stronger than when it's cold. It just doesn't hold moisture.
Yeah,
Slightly different. And that sounds cool though. I mean, I wish I
it
did
is.
something cool. Like,
And it, well, I mean, it's all part of climate change too, because
yeah,
part of the heat stress thing is, sometimes during the summer when soybeans, are setting their seed and, doing what we harvest them to do,
yeah,
we'll get hit with a heat wave that's like in the hundreds out here.
yeah.
And, so they look at these things. And then we also have drought stress experiments that we do usually out in the field. Um, I haven't worked on any drought stress in this group in the greenhouse yet. I have done drought experiments in greenhouses before. Those are a lot of work. And you have to like weigh the pots and measure the soil moisture with each. Yeah.
So that's with like
It's
soybeans. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this for me, but I'm gonna ask. So things like creating drought resistant wheat, so it can be like, well, I guess because climate change, but it was so it can be grown in Africa or whatever in sub-Saharan regions. But is that something that's trying to be done with other things like soybeans too? And
oh yeah.
so
Yeah, it's
how do you just
ongoing.
like do you breed like these plants survive the stress test, so you breed those plants more that creates them like for them to
That's part of
be
it.
stronger
Yeah, I
like
mean,
that?
that is part of it. So you'll when we do these tests, we'll grow like a wide, number of cultivars, whether they're what we call elite lines, which will be what a farmer is going to grow. Those are adapted to, the region, to their location. So they'll grow something like that. But they may not be drought tolerant. So we grow, it's so different between different places, but for public, we grow a wide range of things. I'm sorry, I mean like public research versus private. Um, and so we basically at my research unit, they, it's so hard to explain, but when you're in the field, there'll be like 20 different what we call genotypes. And when you're in a drought field, it's usually sandy soil because that's the easiest to control moisture. And we'll have irrigation that we can run when we need to. And so when you're there and it's all wilty looking, like the soybeans react really fast. You'll see which lines, like it's pretty obvious which lines do better than others. And then these same tests are replicated in different environments in different regions. And we just take all sorts of data. I mean, there is visual phenotyping, that's what we call it, but there's a lot of sampling. And they'll sample like leaf discs, they'll sample whole leaves, and and they're taking various measurements from like the photosynthesis measurements, it's like water potential, things like that, because there's all these plant physiology is so complicated. That's why I like genetics and plant breeding. To me, it's a lot easier, but
that's fair. I mean,
yeah, there's like so many little, I mean, when you think about how your body responds to heat, the plant's doing the same thing. I mean, not the exact same thing, but it's also responding to heat. And so there are these various pathways. And when they find lines that are better than others, and sometimes that includes what we call like a wild varieties, which come from, Asia oftentimes, because that's where soybean is from.
Yeah.
And we can do wide crosses, like we'll cross pollinate the two and then see how those do. If, like, let's say this type is known to have, drought resistance, then that'll come into play as well. I don't know if there are any genes that are specific to drought resistance in soybean. Because, I mean, if it were me, like, I'd be like, yo, why don't we just like run these markers?
Yeah, right.
Like, why are we making this so hard?
That was something I wondered too, if there was like a gene that was specific to drought resistance.
Yeah, as far as I know, because the amount of work they've been doing, and that's another thing about like your public research institutions, they're more likely to do this kind of research because it's like there's not a lot of return on the investment that you're spending on it, right? So a private company is not going to be really, they'll help fund us. And so like when people talk about Monsanto and like Syngenta and they say they're all evil, it's like, well, between the universities and, the public research, the government level, like we all help each other out because like we do a lot of the heavy legwork that it's not profitable for those companies to do.
Gotcha.
And so when we develop a line that is drought resistant, we release it to everybody.
Okay.
It's like anyone has access to it.
So
but it's a process. Honestly, I don't really have an opinion. I don't think so. I mean, you can demonize anything and anyone, right? And I think when you make boogeymen, it's just what they are. So there's 100 other Monsantos out there. They just happen to have a name that lended itself to Satan, Monsatan or whatever. I don't know how these people come up with these names. You haven't heard that?
No.
I have a cousin that's in the crazy, like anti-GMO, anti-everything. Like, I don't know how she walks out of her house. I don't think she leaves it. She must live in the basement underneath the bed.
Oh, I know.
She's got
all like that. Yeah.
All the crazies.
Yeah.
All of it.
I share blood with people like that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoopsie daisies. To the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say something about the overuse of fertilizers with was it nitrogen-rich fertilizers, and that contributes to climate change because
and it's not just
gets dispersed
farmers.
into the cloud. No, not just farmers, but just how it gets evaporated up into the atmosphere and how it the chemical reactions with the ozone once it gets up into the stratosphere that the ozone.
That's a good point. I always
Yeah.
think about it in leaching, like in the water. I don't really
Yeah,
think
well,
about
yeah,
the
and then it goes to the water
atmospheric part of
cycle,
it.
which then goes up, and then it goes up and
Yeah.
up and up, and then it hits the ozone, and there's like all these, like, it's like this chain of chemical reactions with between like ozone, nitrogen, ozone, and phosphorus, like all these, and then it breaks down into just being really awful greenhouse gases that just hang up there, like really strong hang time.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
something to laugh about. I've like been massively over the last couple weeks digging really into like how strong the different greenhouse gases are, and that was popping up. Like, I know everybody bitches about carbon dioxide, which I mean that is a bad one because there's so much of it is the problem, but it is not the long hanging that other ones are. So like, yeah, yeah, we got a lot of issues
so
with nitrogen and phosphates.
so what does the nitrogen do in the atmosphere?
It I'm so bad with
Google.
chemical
Do your
names. Uh,
Google your.
yeah, no, I have it written down in my notebook, which is across the room, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but the nitrogen in the
I mean,
atmosphere, what's the greenhouse gas that it
night
nitrous. Uh,
oxide.
yeah, I just wrote a whole entire thing about this, and now I'm mad at myself. Um, but yeah, just the longevity that it has, because carbon dioxide is like 300 years to maybe 1,000 years hang time, but it doesn't have as powerful as a chemical reaction up in the stratosphere with the ozone. Everything apparently comes down to the ozone and how ozone interacts with these other compounds and how it breaks
Yeah.
down and then it recycles itself. So for every like I don't want to say it's nitrous oxide because I can't remember exactly and it might be, but I don't want to set that in stone. But anyway, the ends when it that compound reacts with the ozone, it like splits apart the oxygen in it and then
Hmm.
it recombines into another and it's like this like 8-step process that I was going through remembering all my chemistry from 10 years ago. um,
Yeah.
Mathematician, not a chemist, even though I love chemistry. But how it breaks down the nitrous, I don't want to keep saying nitrous, whatever, the nitrogen molecules dominate, like they tear apart more ozone and steal more of the oxygen than it can replenish up there, which is a problem. That it's like for every
So
so
they're
many
just.
nitrogen that creates vastly many more ozone are destroyed in the process, which is why we get ozone holes from things like
Hmm.
chlorofluor CFCs, because that's a tongue twister of a word. Is it
I
chlorofluorocarbons?
don't remember it. Yeah, we had a
Chlorofluorocarbons.
section on it in
I mean, they're
chemistry, and
basically
I don't.
banned now anyway, but well, no, some of them are banned. But
Hmm.
things like our ACs that we have to live with here are bad about CFCs and cooling for like fridges too, that sort of thing. So we're kind of like stuck with them until we find something better to do. I'm half expecting like if we're gonna be switching to renewables and we're using solar, can we not find something better eventually in the cooling system out there? If we can find better energy, why not better cooling? I don't know, I
Yeah,
digress, but yeah, so that's as far as I can remember in chemistry class.
we'll get there
As much as
eventually.
I know, I so hope. I was digging into recently about windmills and solar panels. And
Windmills and cancer. Sorry.
yeah,
Vroom,
right.
vroom.
I forgot about windmills causing cancer. That's
All the
funny.
dead birds. All the dead
Yeah,
birds.
I totally forgot
Sorry.
about that. That's funny. Oh man, that one died off, didn't it? It kind of died off.
Yeah, because it's so bogus.
I know. There's so many windmills here. It's insane. But the problem with both of those technologies actually is that they degrade and then they just go in landfills. So cool that we're trying to get off of, carbon, but we got a pollution problem of landfills. Because like
Yeah.
there's with at least with so with the windmills the problem is like most of it can be recycled, like the wire, the copper, different parts in there. But the blades themselves are not recyclable because
You
they're
can't break them
fiberglass.
down.
No,
Oh.
they're fiberglass and like some different. They might have a type of coating on them, but you can't break that down. There is a couple companies I read, like one in Europe, and I think there's one in the States that are figuring out how to recycle them and
Mm-hmm.
turn them into things like emergency housing roof plates sort of thing, so they can melt them
Oh.
down and turn them into something else. It's just expensive to do it, so there's not a lot
Yeah,
of
and
traction to do it yet.
how resource needy is that process?
I mean, if they're having a boom as big of a housing market boom as we're having in the States, but the I think one of the highest costs is that these these blades are huge. Like they don't look huge when you're just like driving by the highway.
Oh,
At
I
least here
imagine
on the
they're,
highway. No, they're like
yeah,
110 feet long, 170 feet long. They're massive. Those are just the land-based
good
ones. The ones in the
grief.
ocean are 3 times that size. They're huge.
Really?
Yeah, I
I
never
had no
realized how big they were,
idea.
but yeah, they are absolutely massive. And so they have to be. You have to use diamond-covered saws to cut them into pieces, and then you have to take those pieces and put them on trucks, and then the trucks have to carry them to the land facility to dispose of them. But there is only a few places that actually dispose of them. So all across the country, you're taking them to these couple different places. So then you want to take them to all those places where they bury them, and if you want to take them from those landfills and then take them to recycling plants, that's even more gas and time that you're doing. Like it's just there's not they have to open up more recycling plants that can handle that sort of thing, or even more landfills, but they are just digging like 30-foot holes in the ground and just lining them
It's
up
so
and covering
bad.
them. It's horrible. Yeah.
Why?
And
Why? It's
then we
like
have,
the nuclear waste.
yeah, I grew up down by Hanford, so yeah, nuclear waste for sure. Um,
I'm not anti-nuclear power, but
I'm not, but we gotta do something about the damn waste. Like, as far as
yeah,
emissions, nuclear is great, but then we have all this waste. What the hell do we do with the waste?
yeah.
Like if we could figure out the right technology, because if we could have a cycle of nuclear fission to fusion, it can just recycle itself. Break apart,
Hmm.
come back together, break apart, come back together, and just kind of a perpetual motion instead of having a bunch of nuclear waste at the end from, was it fission? Fusion. Yeah.
Is that expensive? I don't know. So like knowing nothing, you know what you should do?
Bet.
Have a specific topic that we talk about, and so then we're not like. But this is fun just to chat.
Whatever. I mean, I'm still gonna have you later come back on, and then I'll like really ask you about your research and
I'll have
nitpick
to
all the
research
things.
my research.
Well, that sounds
It's not
fabulous.
it's not
I
really my research, but yeah, it's
but what
part
you're
of
doing, like
I'm
that's awesome.
participating.
Yeah, I wish I
I get to do
participated in
the
research.
that's why I got the master's and not the PhD because I actually get to get my hands dirty.
Oh, smart. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
When you get the PhD, you're like at the desk
Yeah,
writing grants.
right. Research for me is like I sit here and I pull numbers from NOAA and write programs.
Hey, if that's
It's
actually
not very
something
exciting.
that people need,
I mean,
people writing programs. I'm
yeah,
terrible, like stats and stuff. Oh
I love
my
statistics so
gosh.
much. I love it. It's so I want to hug it. I love statistics. But you're not alone. Like so
I just want to do the science. Like somebody else can crunch the
well,
numbers
I
for
like the
me.
statistics because it is I mean, that's partially why I do like math is for the applied mathematics part, especially statistics. Like it's
Hmm.
essentially universal that you're going to end up using statistics, but it is a different type of thinking that people have to do. Like most of my math cohorts, I will say most of the people that I graduated in mathematics, they were going into teaching. They weren't getting, they're getting the, I don't know, whatever the bachelor's of teaching degree is or
Mm.
whatever. There was a couple of us that got the bachelor's of science. So we didn't do the teaching courses, we just went right into the math. But all of these people, they hated statistics. They were math majors and they hated statistics. Like, there's just something about statistics that turns people off. But I think it's that there's a whole different type of logic behind it that you have to prove and understand how it flows together.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I just don't like doing it, and I don't
Yeah.
like writing programs. Sorry
Oh,
for my
I'm
like,
shit at programming, but I'm learning. And it's
or
fun when
like
like I'm actually using
code.
it for something. Yeah. Code.
I don't like writing the code to do the various analyses. Like,
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean,
I don't know.
my
It's so boring. I
that's fair.
understand. I understand
Totally
the
fair.
purpose
Yeah.
and the like reasoning behind it and experimental design, blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But yeah, somebody else can run the number. The fact that a postdoc today was like saying that she was going to take 2 more days to see whether or not she could figure out her coding, I was like,
Yeah. It's a pain in the ass. It's a complete pain in
no.
the ass, but I like, at least with statistics, that you're like making really pretty charts to explain things, and I like the visual aspect of it. It's kind of the, I don't know, I guess that's where the art comes in a little bit, that people
You
talk
know,
about with STEM and art.
we hire statisticians. Like that's just what their job is. You should get a job as a
That's so fun.
statistician.
I would love to, but like everywhere wants a master's or a PhD.
I think if you can show them your work, because I still feel
Well,
like,
I did.
why would you need a PhD in
Oh my
statistics?
god, my dogs are gonna go crazy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Puppies.
I know. I don't know.
Oh, you're
Okay,
fine.
wait a second. Um, so the undergrad level of statistics is a lot of, I know, arf arf. He's so annoying.
I love it. I don't have a
It's
dog, so I
Oh
have
well,
cats.
you can come play with mine.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
fly across the
Okay.
countries.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
I play with everyone's dogs.
Sounds great. Now,
I
so
need one.
undergrad statistics is very everything is, this variable is independent of this other variable, you know? And when you go into graduate level statistics, so I didn't do grad school, but for my senior um, graduating project, I had to go and learn graduate level statistics. And so what I did is a time series. So everything, the variables are dependent upon one of another, which is how you get climate models, because this, X1 is dependent on X2, which is dependent on X3, and everything builds upon the next one. So I understand why a lot of the jobs require you to actually have like a master's in it, because you don't go so far into depth at an undergraduate level. There's so much more that you cover on a graduate level, and I had to do more of that, and it was fantastic. I got excited about it because nobody else knew what I was doing, and like that was like the shining light of my whole. I hated college. It was a horrible experience for me, as you know, Tiff. But when I presented my graduate research, my professor screwed up my presentation and set it during finals week, so only 2 people came to it, unfortunately, because it was really really cool. But so it was my thesis advisor and then my academic advisor. And by the time I finished, my academic advisor said he had no idea how any of that worked and he wanted to learn more. So for me to send him like all of my research and the programming and everything so he could learn from me. I was like, this PhD holder over here is like, he wants to learn from me. And I was so excited about it. It was my pride and joy in life.
Aww.
But yeah, so I understand
That's awesome.
the need.
Well, you could use him
It's
as a
fun.
reference.
Oh, I never thought of that. I actually never thought about that. Yeah.
References are a very important part of the application process.
Yeah, and I don't have like any, because
Ask
like,
him.
oh, I should.
Yeah. Especially if you like contributed something like that. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I set like whenever I turn in applications or whatever, and it has like, I put a thing about the research, and then I always have a link to my paper and my research that I did. Not that anybody's ever going
Yeah.
to look at it, but proof that it's there.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm still doing, like, so my research project was on the temperature and precipitation trends for Spokane here in relation to the global trends, which were spot on, by the way. Spot on.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God. So there's I have to dig into it more. There's this crazy thing about the 70s. And so here and globally, the precipitation has gradually declined overall. Like we might have might have a year that's really heavy and the next couple years are dry, but overall it's just a steady decline nonstop since the 70s, like 1971, 72. And then at the
Really?
exact same time, temperature has gone up steady at the same rate. And it's the same thing globally. And
Hmm.
the crazy thing, so living in the Pacific Northwest in the Fire Nation, wildfires. I went to this really cool talk with this lady who does work about deforestation and beavers and how they help repopulate the forest after fires. So since the 70s or before the 70s, we've always had little fires here, but nothing reached over 100,000 acres until the 70s, which is the same time we had this disruption of precipitation and temperature happening.
Hmm.
So there's some weird turning point, and I don't know. And I wish I knew some people at like NASA or NOAA that I could bug about it. But it blows my mind that everything just like collides right at the same moment in the 70s.
Send them an email.
Oh,
They're public scientists. You're
are
allowed
they?
to email
Oh,
them your questions.
oh, okay. So I
Hmm.
just need to find somebody and be
Or
like, hi.
yeah, or universities, yeah.
Okay.
Extension office, because I believe your local extension probably also does like climate
Wait, an extension office for what?
off the university. I think every state has what we call like your local extension office. A lot
Oh,
of people relate them to like agriculture, soil, like garden pests, things like that,
uh huh.
but they also have climate scientists there too.
Oh, okay. I will have to look at that. I had no idea. Like,
Yeah. I
that's
know the local extension office is such a wealth of information. A lot of people don't know about it.
yeah. I've never. I mean, so I was like the lone because my I did 3 years of physics and then hopped to geology and then went back to physics and then bailed out and went to math and finished my degree. So I was all over the place, but I was the only one in math that was going there with like a science background and an interest in
Mm,
science because everybody, like I said, most people were going into teaching, and then there's a couple of them that were like interested in math theory and being PhD theory people, which I super don't care about. I'm sorry to all the math
that
people out
sounds
there,
so
but I hate
boring.
theory. It is boring. I like applications and like crunching actual numbers and stuff is really fun for me. Um, but yeah, so which was my problem with yelling at the kid who thought NASA did nothing. Um, so I was sitting there with, you know, wanting an application in all this math that I was learning and trying to like talk to my thesis advisor, and she was just like, I don't know about anything. I was like, okay, because originally I was going to do something astronomy related, and she was like, I don't know anything about astronomy. It's like, okay, never mind. I'm going to do climate because I like climate
Oh,
anyway. And she was like, okay, I don't really know anything, but we'll figure it out. That we did a little bit. But a lot of the professors, like I had gone to them as I was graduating, saying like, what kind of things can I do, and try to get recommendations. Where can I go? And they were all like, well, you should go into teaching. I was like, I don't, I don't want to be a teacher. Well, you should really consider it. I was like, no, I want to be an applied mathematician and go study shit. Now help me figure out how to do that. And they were just like, not helpful whatsoever. Absolutely not helpful.
oh,
And then I went to the career center. They were absolutely not helpful either. Like
that's
it was
terrible.
like, yeah, I went to the career center like, hey, I need help like trying to take the next step and everything. They're like, oh, well, if you go to this website, and it was basically like not LinkedIn, it was like Indeed, but for college graduates.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. The job site.
yeah, yeah. He was like, just go to these job sites. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm already doing that. Like, I need more and like more tips. And he's like, well, I can look at your resume. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, looks good. I'm like, great. I need help more, like fundamentally understanding like how do I reach out to these very specific people, and they had no help for me whatsoever, which is why I'm still here doing this.
Hmm. Well, we can make that change.
I know. I wish I would have at least started like I years and years ago I wanted to start a YouTube channel. for like science communication. And I was so busy with school and working and everything, I never did it. And then, damn COVID. I should have started this at the very beginning of COVID, like all the other people that suddenly started podcasts too. Apparently, that was a big thing for COVID. I should have done it then, but better late than
But
never,
it's
right?
it's
Like,
still a thing.
yeah.
People like it.
So I don't know. I'm like, this is my outlet to like, I am so obsessed with math and science, and I just want to talk about it all the time. And I want everybody else to understand it because we live in the United States, and I don't have very nice things to say sometimes about living here.
Yeah, the everything's so political now. It's just such a drag and it ruins everything.
Yeah, well, and there's just like an I mean, it's been brewing for years. It's not just like a recent 5 year thing that
Yeah.
some people think of. It's been brewing for years, like the absolute distrust in authority. Like, I'm not saying like authority of like respect my authority with the government. It's like we don't trust people who've dedicated their lives and got PhDs and masters and whatever in different fields, and we no longer trust what they have to say because somebody in their basement on YouTube said something different.
Right? Or like
And it
the
drives me
fact that
crazy.
civil servants, like poor Anthony Fauci, like
Oh my god,
he
I
probably
know.
could easily be like a billionaire if he was like off in private industry. Like,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
but
Like, are
he
people taking really shitty salaries just to try to provide people with better information? You know, like, come
in private industry, I think like for someone at my level, like with a master's degree, I could probably be making like 10 to 15,000 more.
on.
But
Oh,
I
that's nice.
choose to be in public
Oh, okay.
research because I want to serve my country and,
Yeah.
do do the important research, not be and not be a cog in the machine.
Sorry, we're having sign
um,
language on who's making macaroni.
Macaroni. Oh, that's right. You haven't had dinner yet.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm extremely full.
That's okay. No,
That's
there's
okay.
thinking about this is a wild story. Thinking about Fauci, there's our our regional health. What do you call it? Like the regional health representative, the person who's out there saying like we need to follow these types of things for our region, and they're the head of it. I can't remember, but the guy he was like our Fauci here. He got pushed out
Mm.
for following like guidelines from the government and from Fauci and from other medical
I think that happens in like
faculty. Like
every state.
he got straight up pushed out illegally. It was completely illegal what happened. It blew my mind, but also not surprising.
What is the world coming
Like
to? It's like
people,
people want to be
yeah,
sick and die
people were in mobs on his front doorstep harassing him. It was that bad here.
for doing his job.
Yes, yeah, it's straight up dangerous. I just don't understand. Like a few times I've gone to like the science marches here, the climate marches here, and I'm always a little bit like, oh god, someone's gonna show up.
You're not affiliated with anybody, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was really cool the last was it the climate march I went to or the science march? No, it was the science march because it was on Earth Day. So they had the science march on Earth Day, pre-COVID, 10 years ago.
I went to the one here in Raleigh.
Like I've been to it a few times, but I was here and I was by myself. I'm just sitting there with my little sign all by myself and everything. And I was sitting next to these kind of little older ladies. They're like probably in their late 50s maybe. And I just start talking to them. And turns out one of them, their husband, was one of my professors, my math professors.
Oh,
And then she was like really great friends with my math advisor. And so we were all just talking about everything and like the small world that it was. And it was fantastic. Like little things like that make me a little bit happy in a region of where I'm at. It's very distrust and anti-science here, which breaks
there's a
my
lot
little
of
science
that
heart.
here too.
Eh.
I know it's everywhere. It's unfortunate, but it's everywhere.
I know
I
what you're
don't
gonna do
really know how
besides
to
try to like.
solve that.
I'm gonna
You
try
can't
to
really
fix.
yeah, and you can't really force your
No,
knowledge on people because they
no.
just Oh, you have a
But
college degree? Like
yeah,
now, I don't understand,
but I
but
think there's a big
honestly, less people getting degrees is
yeah.
better.
Wow, we need more people to get degrees because I think one of the biggest problems is that you have people with their degrees and doing the research and everything, but a lot of the time they don't know how to communicate that on a basic understanding to the general
Yeah.
populace is a problem.
There
Like,
isn't, yeah, I feel like science communication should be for like a required course for
yeah, it
everybody
really should.
in the sciences.
And that was one thing my physics, one of my physics professors said I was at least really good at explaining hard topics and breaking them down. At least
It's
for, because I
hard.
was a tutor for a long time. So I had to be able
Maybe
to break
you can
things
teach me
down and
physics.
explain them. Physics is fun. And I did math tutoring and TA work too. So I worked in both those departments, which was great. Mildly stressful, but also really great to at least, have to have that. I'm really bad with words. Ironically, finding the right word, have that in your wheelhouse to be able to explain more complicated things at a basic level. But there's, at least to me, there's also a problem that, like, we have really great documentaries out there, and you have like people like Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson out there that are trying to, you know, on a national level and even a world level, bring topics to people and explain it. But why is
Need
it
more.
always a yeah, but why is it always a physicist that is out there
Yeah.
explaining all the other maths and sciences? It's always a physicist.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you have the physicist out there talking? They can talk about physics and math or astronomy because that's just physics. And then you have like their BFF, who's, I don't know, a biologist to talk about and be able to explain all the different biologies to people. Like, you need to have like at least someone who's in the umbrella, like top of the umbrella, that can explain better. Like, I mean, physicists have to know their shit, yeah, but like, do I want a physicist to explain plant physiology to me? Like,
No, you don't want me explaining it to you either.
I want someone who's in biology and knows plants to explain that to me, or at least someone adjacent. So like this with my goal is if I can have like you come on here and other people in each in their fields and try to help ask the right questions for people to understand better what they do, and so people know how, how STEM applies to all the fields and all the aspects of our life. I mean, with
Plant
mathematics,
breeding is so
yeah,
important.
super important. What are we gonna have without it? And like, I know everybody hates math because math is hard. I get it, but it's
I
also like
love
how
math.
it's taught, I think, is a
Yeah.
huge factor of it. But it's in everything. Like, one of my professors, he did research with plants, and the rate that water was able to come up through the stems and disperse through the leaves and everything else, he actually had to like mathematically show the rate of how that would happen, and it totally blew
That
my
is so
mind that
cool.
that was something. But yeah, he did that. One of
I want
my
to see
other,
that.
I know, I could probably email him. I had him for like my entire college years, so I got to know him pretty well. And then his best friend was one of my other math professors, and he did mathematics applications in, it was applications in brain synapses and mapping brain synapses and how the neural network would fire off, because that's just little sparks of physics
How?
going off in there. Yeah. And like, I didn't know that was a thing that could be explained mathematically, and apparently it is. So
That's
yeah,
wow.
totally blows my mind. And like, I
Yeah.
was doing for one of my research projects, called partial differential equations, which is just, it's like
I've heard of that
calculus.
course before. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, you have, if you have multivariable calculus and you're taking partial differentials with only like, instead of taking x, y, and z differential, you might only be taking x throughout the entire thing, or just, breaking it apart in different partials, differentials to different variables in that equation with multivariables. Variables, I can't speak. Anyway, so you can use partial differential equations in astrophysics and taking astroimaging. And as you take the images, you can write the right algorithms with that, and it can fine tune the images, like fine tune the stars as you get
What?
the image from your telescope.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't know it
That
was
is really cool.
used like that. But there's, yeah, even as a math person, there's so many different things that I did not know it could be used for. And I wish more people would
Yeah.
understand. Like, if, I don't know, I feel like if you could see how things were used, it would spark that curiosity more in people,
Yeah.
you know?
Just the science in your everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. Like, thank you, NASA, again. Are they the ones that we owe the MRI machine to? Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That would be so great. Oh, I'm looking forward to like your episodes then, because that'll
Yeah.
be, yeah, this obviously is just for funsies,
Yeah.
but
This is a funsies, just something to get out there because the first episode was
bullshitting.
just like 4 minutes of me being like, so I'm going to do a podcast. Tune in. So it'll be this next week. Are you friends with Alex Palermo? Palermo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
he is going to talk about like next week his physics track, and then he's doing a startup that I guess I don't really know the startup. It's going public, so we were gonna do it this weekend, but it's going public next week. So then we'll do it after, where he can actually talk about it on the podcast and
Ooh,
the
fun.
research that research that he's doing with that and his background and everything. And then I'll talk to you after that.
About plant breeding, not physiology.
Yes, plant
Plant
breeding
breeding and genetics. Yeah.
breeds. Yeah, and
I'm
everything.
excited to work for a physiologist now because I'll be learning new things and also like relearning stuff because I had plenty of plant phys classes,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
yeah.
you still always learning. Like the more we find out, we're gonna learn something new. So it's just
Oh
ever
yeah.
evolving, which I think people also don't realize that aspect of the sciences
Yeah.
either, which is kind of what got us into a big hole those last couple of years, is being able to
Yeah,
see
it's
the evolution in real time and how fast things can change as we learn new
mhm.
things. So,
Yeah, it's not static, just like
no,
the world is not static. Everything is always
people would
evolving.
still be thinking that the earth was flat. I know. I know. It's
Hmm.
funny. It's sad, but it's funny. It is what
Well,
it is.
now the Earth just doesn't exist.
Oh, is that a new one?
Well, it's a subreddit.
Oh, really? It's like
It's
Australia.
just it's just for funsies.
Watch out. There's probably someone that believes it.
And
Definitely
that's,
is.
that those are the fun ones.
Yeah.
That's where it's actually a lot of fun.
When they really
Just
believe it.
like,
You just have to one up the conspiracy people that are like, oh, we never landed on the moon. You go, no, no. You believe in the moon? Are you kidding me? Like, you just have to one up it. It'll be great.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that sub is like complete satire.
I hope so. You should
Yeah,
send it to
I'll
me.
I'll I'll send it to
Thank
you.
you. That'd be great. Okay.
It's funny.
So, an hour and 23 minutes has been wonderful, Tiff.
Oh wow.
I
Yeah,
know.
like my phone is dying, but I don't know what my phone was at
Oh my
before.
goodness. Yeah. So it's
I
been
also have
fun.
an older phone.
Oh, mine is too.
Well, it's been fun and I can't wait.
It's been
So,
super fun. So I will coordinate a day that we can do this. Probably two at the end of the month, I think. So I want to do every other week. So then next week we'll do Alex and then take a week off and then do yours at the end of the month. So like the second and fourth
sure.
weekend of every month. Yeah.
Okay. And then on the weekends in between or the weeks in between, are you just gonna
Funsies. Yeah. Might just be funsies things. Yeah. It'd be
just
great.
chatting and hopefully come up with some
Yeah.
brilliant conversations here and there?
I know. We've touched a lot of different topics, so you never know. Might be something some might spark someone going, "Oh shit, I didn't know about that." We just were casually talking about it. You know?
Yeah, and they go Google.
Exactly. That is the best that I could hope for, is that it makes people want to go Google and learn more things. You know?
Yeah, I have a to Google list.
I just have a lot of open pages saved at the top.
I those get me in trouble because then what happens is I end up having like 50 tabs on my phone, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna close
Oh,
them
that's
all,
super
and then
slow.
I just
Yeah.
I don't think it's so slow. I don't know. I don't use my Wi-Fi on my phone. My family
Oh,
plan is like unlimited data, and like I eat all the data.
I live in the black zone, so I have to use Wi-Fi.
My phone's been saying 5G for years.
You have 5G? I
That's what
don't.
it says. I've had it forever.
What? I'm
Yeah,
getting ripped off.
I feel like it's been forever at least.
Well, that's exciting. Did you get it when you got the vaccine? Did that just come in the
No, it was
package or?
before. It was
Oh,
before.
darn.
The 5G came first.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe the 5G led to the vaccine. I'm just kidding.
Maybe. I don't know. I have
We'll
AT&T.
start a new conspiracy with that one.
Dude, you can just like throw a number out there and start a conspiracy. It's so
I
easy.
know
You
it's
can roll the
fantastic.
dice. Just roll it.
It's fantastic. It really is. Do you like? Oh, and this is going to be a funny question, but do you listen to podcasts?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I have a funny one about throwing numbers out there to send you, and it will uh it it'll make you laugh and cringe at the same time, but it's really really great.
Okay.
So I'll remember to do that after this. But
Yes.
okay, so I'm gonna have dinner and wind it down. I hope I didn't keep you up too late because I know you are way ahead in hours over there from me. So
Yeah, what are we, 2 hours different?
3.
Three? Because it's
Yeah.
9:30 here, so it's
Yep.
6:30
6:30
there.
here. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So
I can never remember if it's 3 or 4.
yeah,
3.
3 hours, solid 3.
Magic number.
It is. Wunderbar. All right. I will set up a date with you in a couple weeks then. Thanks for joining me,
Yeah.
Tiffany. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I hope my like lack of I don't have fancy headphones or
Oh,
anything, so
shh.
hopefully that doesn't.
That's totally okay. It don't matter. It's okay.
Okay.
All right. Good night, Tiff.